There were multiple clippings from newspapers, pictures that have been printed off the internet of other shooters that have been involved in similar incidences.
Brand new details about a Georgia school shooter were revealed during a preliminary hearing for his father, who's also facing charges. And this includes issues with violent behavior, the lack of urgency in getting the teen mental health help, and the 14-year-old's apparent shrine to other school shooters. We're going to break down everything that we learned in that courtroom. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Now here's a story we haven't talked about in a bit. We've been focusing so much on Sean Diddy Combs, but how can we forget the story, the case of 14-year-old Colt Gray? He is accused of bringing a rifle to Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia, in his backpack, and then opening fire on students and teachers in several classrooms during second period. Colt is accused of killing 4 people: Mason Schemmerhorn, Christian Angulo, both 14 years old, and 2 math teachers, Ricky Aspinwall and Christina Ermy. He was arrested within minutes of the shooting after school resource officers confronted him. He surrendered. But his father, 54-year-old Colin Gray, was also arrested the next day, facing charges of his own: murder, manslaughter, cruelty to children charges. He faces 8 counts there. And officials say he recklessly allowed his teen son access to the weapon, that this was foreseeable this could happen, and he is at fault. Now, since the shooting, details about Colt, his relationship with his parents, possible prior threats that he'd made, that started to come out. We learned a lot more. We learned that his mother, Marcy Gray, had a criminal history that involved drugs and domestic violence, that she and Colin Gray had split up and she had reportedly moved several hours south to live with her parents. At one point, Colin had sole custody of just Colt. At other points, all 3 children, and Colt and his brother and sister were all living with Colin at one point. And then we go to May of 2023. The FBI had gotten a tip that someone was posting photos of guns on the video game streaming site Discord and saying they were ready to shoot up a school. So the FBI's Atlanta field office notified Jackson County, where then 13-year-old Colt Gray was living with Colin. So investigators, they went to the house, they spoke with both Colin and Colt, who both assured the officers that things were fine, that Colt didn't know who had posted that on Discord.
Let me ask you this, do you have weapons in the house?
I do.
Are they accessible to him?
They are. I mean, there's nothing loaded, but they are down. We do a lot of shooting. We do a lot of deer hunting. He shot his first deer this year.
Did it? Okay.
You know, so like I'm pretty much in shock, to be honest with you.
Well,
I'm a little pissed off, to be even really honest with you. If that is what was said.
And because of some inconsistencies and the age of the tip, the officers decided that they would take Colt at his word, and they ended up closing the investigation. But then you fast forward months later in nearby Barrow County, and officials say Colt took a gun that his father had bought for him for Christmas and killed 4 people. And by the way, we always want to continue our coverage of these kinds of stories for you as they make their way through the legal system. And one of the reasons that we're able to do that is because we get incredible support from our sponsors. And I just want to call out one for you right now: Upside. Now, Upside's awesome. Upside is a free app that helps you get cash back when you buy gas, groceries, food. This is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you can then transfer straight into your bank account. I'll give you an example. I used Upside to find a gas station. I claimed an offer, pay with my credit card at the pump, followed the steps on the app. Guess what happened? I got cash back. And you can use Upside at all different kinds of places: restaurants, convenience stores. So to find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside, or scan the QR code on screen and use our promo code SIDEBAR, and you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Well, during a preliminary hearing for Colin Gray on Wednesday, investigators with both the Barrow County Sheriff's Office and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation were called by the state to testify. And by the way, a preliminary hearing is to determine if there is sufficient probable cause to support the charges and for this case to continue. Really low bar for the prosecutors. They just have to put forward enough evidence for this case to make its way to trial. And during this hearing is when we learned some very interesting yet very disturbing details about this alleged crime. So we heard from Special Agent Lucas Byer of the GBI. He was up first. And he started with the beginning of the school day on September 4th when Colt took the bus to Appalachia High.
The firearm was located in his book bag. It was a rifle, so it was long, so it did not fit in his book bag entirely. We believe that we determined that the rifle was protruding out of his book bag, and that the part of the rifle that was protruding from the book bag was concealed with a rolled up poster board. And just by a quick glance, it appeared that Colt Gray was possibly transporting a school project.
Special Agent Byer says that according to surveillance video from inside the classrooms and in the hallways, Colt had attended first period, but then he left briefly to go to the restroom, or he asked to go to the restroom. And then during second period, he asked to go see the school counselor who he'd seen previously. And from there, the GBI agent explained Colt's next steps.
Based on information obtained during the investigation, Mr. Gray asked the teacher, Ms. Greer, if he could leave the class in order to go see the counselor. She granted him permission to do that. He obtained a hall pass from the classroom, and then he departed the classroom.
Did he take anything with him when he left the classroom?
He took his book bag.
Did he leave anything in the classroom when he left?
Yes, sir. He left the black notebook that he had placed on the desk.
And was it still open?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay.
At the time that Colt Gray exited the J Hall restroom, he was wearing yellow gloves that he had not previously been wearing. The white poster board that had been inside the backpack was no longer there. He was carrying the backpack in his left hand. The white poster board was, he appeared to have it wrapped around his lower torso as if to conceal something.
Where did he go at that point?
Mr. Gray proceeded to return back to his second period classroom, which was classroom 2.151.
What happened when you arrived there?
The door to the classroom was secured. Based on video footage, it appeared that Mr. Gray stood outside of the classroom door for approximately a minute. At some point, I should note that none of the video that I reviewed had any audio associated with it. But based off the reaction of students in the classroom, it looked like Mr. Gray may have knocked on the door. A student stood up and appeared to be preparing to open the door. She observed Colt through the door's window. In her reaction, she backed away from the door. She put her hand over her mouth, and she appeared to get the attention of Miss Greer, who also went to the window, observed Mr. Gray, and immediately told students to get into the corner of the classroom. Ms. Greer then took control of a badge that she was wearing and pushed a button that initiated a lockdown procedure.
What did Mr. Colt Gray do at that point?
Colt Gray moved to his left and went to the door of classroom 2.152, which was identified as Miss Cassie Ryan's classroom. He entered that classroom and proceeded to fire the rifle into that classroom.
Did he fire one time or multiple times?
He fired multiple times.
Okay. Were you able to tell about how many times or from the video?
No, sir. Once Colt Gray started discharging the rifle, there was a lot of dust and debris that obscured some of the camera footage. So I was not able to determine based off that video how many times he discharged the rifle, but it was clear and obvious that he did discharge the rifle multiple times.
Were people in that classroom struck?
Yes, sir.
Do you know about how many?
I believe it was 6 or 7 individuals were injured in that classroom.
And was anyone killed in that classroom?
Yes, sir. Student Christian Angulo was killed in that classroom. At approximately 10:22 a.m. And 29 seconds, the video depicted Colt shouldering the rifle, aiming it, and discharging several rounds, and those rounds impacted teacher Christina Ermy.
Was she struck?
Yes, sir, she was.
And did she die from her injuries?
Yes, sir, she did. He observed Coach Aspinwall and Coach Phoenix, and video depicted him discharging multiple rounds towards the coaches.
Were they struck?
Yes, sir, they were both struck.
And did Coach Aspinwall
Yes, sir, he was.
And was Coach Phoenix killed?
Coach Phoenix was not killed. He was severely wounded.
What happened with Colt at that point?
Colt continued traveling down. He turned his attention back down J Hall. Video footage appeared to show him searching for more targets or trying to access other classrooms. He didn't pull on any door handles. I believe he was just looking for open classroom doors. Once he reached the end of J Hall, he stopped and turned around, and it was that point that another student exited the restrooms.
Who was that student?
That was student Mason Schermerhorn. Colt Gray was positioned behind Mason at a distance. Mason did not see Colt initially, and the video footage depicted Colt again shouldering the rifle, aiming, and discharging multiple rounds at Mason Schermerhorn.
Okay. What did Colt do at that point?
Shortly after...
I'm sorry. Did Mason Schermerhorn, was he struck by the...
Yes, sir, he was.
And was he killed by the action of Colt?
Yes, sir, he was.
What did Colt do at that point?
At that point, within a matter of 2 or 3 seconds, 2 Barrow County Sheriff's Office school resource officers entered J Hall. They had their weapons drawn and aimed at Colt, and it appeared that they were issuing verbal commands. Colt placed the rifle on the ground. He raised his hands, ultimately laid down on the ground, and surrendered himself to the school resource officers, who were able to take him into custody.
Okay. And was the firearm taken into custody at that point?
Not at that point. It remained where he dropped it, and the firearm was ultimately recovered by GBI crime scene agents during the processing of the scene.
And what kind of firearm was that?
It was a black in color Sig Sauer Sig M400 rifle. There was 1 magazine loaded in the rifle, which was found to contain 18 rounds, and there was also 1 round in the chamber of the rifle at the time of recovery.
What was the capacity of that magazine?
The capacity of that particular magazine was 60 rounds.
Okay. Were there other magazines found in Colt Gray's possession?
Yes, sir. There were an additional 3 magazines located in his possession, one of which was a 30-round capacity magazine. And there were additional 60-round capacity magazines in his possession.
And the prosecutor asked Special Agent Beyer about this black notebook that had been left behind in the classroom.
What was inside the notebook appeared to be writings and drawings from Mr. Gray.
Okay. And what were those writings and drawings?
There were various writings. There was a 2-page section in the notebook that appeared to be a written plan of how to execute the shooting. There were also various sketches that appeared to depict Miss Greer's classroom.
And was that sketch accurate with what you saw as the layout for a classroom?
Yes, sir, it was. There were also some additional writings where it appeared that Mr. Gray was estimating possible casualty counts.
Okay. And you could describe, you said there was more than detailed planning of it?
Yes, sir.
Describe that to us.
Would you like me to read it, sir?
Yes.
All right, this is a quote from the pages that were in Mr. Gray's notebook. Second, walk from first to the bathroom, so I'll set my bag down, open it, put on a vest, take a moment or 2 to stay calm and really think about if I want to do this. Take out the poster covering the rifle, take out rifle and prop it against the stall. Vest should be on at this point. Get out gloves, put them on, they're in your backpack. Clap a few times to make sure they're on tight. Once done, zip up backpack. Check mag slots in vest. At this point, there's a diagram that's drawn depicting the rifle magazines. Next page. Onto the thing. Wait a bit. Make sure no one was walking in or out of the bathroom. Gloves should be on. Take out your 60-rounder and put it in and chamber around. Okay. Turn on your red dot. Aim down at the floor. Make sure your sight is on. Check your vest and make sure it's on tight. Once done, check stock to make sure it's in your preferred setting. Put on hat. Make sure hair is out of your face. Set backpack to the side. Pick up rifle with right hand. open stall door with left. Don't shoot anyone in the bathroom. You'll alert people. There was a page in the notebook identified. Excuse me. The top of the page is labeled hallway and classroom. In the hallway column, it's written, I'm thinking 3 to 4 people killed, injured, ? 4 to 5. Under the classroom column is written 15 to 17 killed, injured, ? 2 to 3. Further down the page is written classroom 2, 3 to 5 killed, injured, 2 to 3. And in parentheses off to the side, it says, surprised if I make it this far.
Now, I mentioned a moment ago that Colt had previously spoken with the guidance counselor. Her name is Lisa Butler. And in an interview, she told investigators that in August, Colt had come to her office having a severe anxiety attack, and he was making comments that pointed towards perhaps hurting himself or killing himself. And Butler concluded that Colt wasn't in a state to remain at the school, so she gets in touch with Colin. But she told investigators that Colin said he couldn't come get Colt because he was working. Now, this is very, very similar to what we heard in the Michigan case of the Crumbleys, right? This idea of, were there warning signs about your child and you didn't do enough? Did you not pick up your child like you should have? So these are not great facts for Colin Gray. Having said that, when it came to Marcy Gray, the investigator says that she tried to alert people that she was worried about her son.
Marcy Gray was identified as Colt Gray's mother, and Ms. Butler described to me that Marcy expressed concern for Colt, and that Colt had texted something to her that day that led Marcy to believe that something bad was imminent. She wasn't sure what it was, but she also told Ms. Butler that Colt had a fascination with school shooters and school shootings. And Marcy further advised Ms. Butler that Colt did have the means and access to firearms through his household.
Now, when it came to Colin's defense team, they can ask questions during the course of a preliminary hearing, and they did ask a few clarifying questions of Agent Beyer, but they kept it kind of brief. But then we had another agent testify, another GBI agent. This was Special Agent Kelsey Ward. She was next to take the stand. And the prosecutor walked her through a timeline of issues that led up to the school shooting.
Now drawing your attention to October of 2023, was the Department of Family and Child Services involved with the Gray family?
They were.
Okay. And so in October of 2023, did they have an open case with them?
They did.
At that time, did Colin provide any information to DFACS about counseling?
He did. Colin stated that all of his children were in counseling at the Barrow Ministry Village. That has been checked into, and Barrow Ministry Village does not have any record of those children attending any counseling.
Okay, and that would be including Colt?
That's correct.
Now, moving to November 17th of 2023, what happened on that day?
On that day, Colin purchased Colt a firearm from Mike's Gun Room. That is a M400 6-hour automatic rifle.
And you said it was purchased by Colin for Colt?
That is correct.
And what was the occasion?
He stated that he was purchasing as a Christmas gift for his son. It was to be a replacement weapon for a firearm he had previously purchased for Colt earlier that year as a hunting weapon. Colt did not like the way that firearm had shot, and so his dad took it back to the store and then later purchased that 6-hour firearm in November.
And that Christmas present that was for Colt, was that the weapon that Colt Gray used in the shooting?
It was that weapon.
Moving to December 19th of 2023, what happened on that day?
On December 19th, 2023, Colin ordered a laser sight for Colt's automatic rifle from Amazon.
Okay. And then moving to June 10th of 2024, what happened that day?
Colin ordered Colt a tactical vest from Amazon.
Okay. And are you familiar with the kind of plan that Colt had written out about the school shooting?
I am.
Was his plan to wear that vest?
Yes, we do know from detailed notebooks that he had written in about his plan for the shooting that he had intended on wearing that vest.
Moving to August 11th of 2024, what happened that day?
On August 11th, 2024, Colt texted Colin, his father, to stop by Academy Sports, an outdoor store, and to pick him up 150 rounds of 5.56 or .223 ammunition.
And is that the type of ammunition that is used in that Sig Sauer rifle that he had purchased?
It is.
And then August 15th of 2024, what happened that day?
Colt asked his dad to buy him a Fayacci bore sight in a text message.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
A Fayacci bore sight to go on the firearm. Colt asked his dad to buy that for him in a text message.
The day that Colt asked his dad to buy him that, had Colt been in a fight with his mother that day?
Yes, he had been in a fight with his mom on that date.
And what was kind of the fight about?
It was about his possession of his firearm and having weapons available to him. They had gotten in an argument over it.
And did his mother want Colt and Colin to put the weapons up?
She did. She had indicated to both of them that she wanted the weapons locked away so they were not accessible.
Now, there seemed to be several points when Colin reportedly tried to find mental health help for his son, but he really didn't seem to follow through. For example, in August of 2024, Colin reportedly reached out to a local counseling group online, but when they called, Colin didn't get back to them. Now, the red flags, they just seem to continue to pop up.
We also know that Colt spoke to his grandmother, Deborah Polhamus, via phone about the Parkland shooter and asked her, if something terrible happened to me or I did something terrible, would you still love me?
By the way, a little background here. Before the shooting, Marcy and Colin were supposed to meet up to take Colt to a mental health center in nearby Athens, but apparently they got into some sort of altercation, some sort of fight, and the plan fell apart.
She spoke with Colin over the phone. They got into an argument over whether or not the firearms at Colin's residence had been secured, which she had been informed by another child had not been secured. Due to that argument, she stated that Colin did not pick her up in Macon the next day, and in return, Colt was not taken to Advantage. Marcy stated that Colin stated he could not pick her up due to not having money for gas.
Now moving to September 4th, the date of the shooting, around 8:30 in the morning, did Colt text his father, Colin?
He did.
And what did he say?
He sent his dad a text that stated, "I will text you in about an hour. It's important. Please answer when I do."
Were there any follow-up texts from Colt to his father?
There were. At 9:42 a.m., Colt texted Colin again. He stated, "I'm sorry. It's not your fault. No, I love you and Jenny and Coley. You're not to blame for any of it."
And did Colt also text his mother?
He did.
And around when did he text her?
He texted her at approximately 9:50 a.m.
And what did he say to her?
"I'm sorry."
What happened after Marcy received that text?
Marcy called the school at approximately 9:50. She was on the line with them for approximately 8 minutes and 29 seconds. During that call, she spoke with Lisa Butler. She explained that she, Marcy, and Colin had received some very concerning text messages from Colt, and she wanted the school to put hands on him immediately and determine where he was inside the building.
And while Marcy called the school, did Colin also call the school?
He did not.
Special Agent Ward also revealed that multiple weapons were found at the Gray home.
Were guns located in the home?
There were.
And approximately how many guns?
There was an AR-15 located in the home. There was a black and color shotgun located in the home. There was one black Glock located in Colin's vehicle, and then there was one black BB gun that looked like a real gun located in the kitchen. And then later, I actually received a text message from Marcy indicating that when she had returned to the house later that day after the search warrant was complete, she had located a tan and color handgun in the floor of Colin's bedroom.
As far as the assault rifle and the shotgun, where were those located?
The shotgun and the rifle were located in the top of the closet in the bedroom that Colin and Coley, his youngest son, shared.
And how old is Colin?
He is 8 years old.
And were the guns secured in any way?
They were not.
Special Agent Ward also went into detail about the really suspicious things found in Colt's bedroom and gaming room.
This is a crumpled up piece of notebook paper. It says, F this life of mine. It appears that he's kind of talking to himself while he's writing. He says, yeah, that was good. So yeah, I hate this life. Anyways, I'm just about to my breaking point. I am, and then he does a list, depressed, eager to die, horny, delirious, and then he spells something that doesn't spell a word. He also says, well, yeah, that's about it, nothing else here. We also found a letter that he had written that he left in the gaming room where he kept his computer. It says, just know it's not your fault. You tried your hardest, not only for me, but for Jenny and Coley. Forgive me. As for what I've done, it's out of my control. Know that I love y'all. See ya. We also located during the execution of the search warrant a notebook in Colt's bedroom. It had pretty detailed drawings of a stick figure that he had labeled you, so him. It then says, shoot the teacher first. There's another stick figure with a bullet going through their body. It says gut shot. There's then pictures of 2 stick figures, students. It then says the students next with an exclamation point next to their desks. It then shows what I believe he's indicating is a deceased stick figure lying on the ground. Him again wearing his hat with the gun, shooting towards those 2 students he had drawn at their desks. One of them appears to have a head wound, and the other one is yelling in horror. And then it shows his stick figure again with the word suicide and a smiley face written. He shows the stick figure shooting himself. We also found another notebook in that same room. It was a drawing of a rifle with what appears to be ammunition coming out of it, and then the word kids written past the ammunition.
In addition to those writings that y'all found, did y'all find anything in the house that suggested Colt Gray had an interest in school shooters?
We did. In that same gaming room, we found GBI, when they executed the warrant, located what would be described as a shrine of sorts. There were multiple clippings from newspapers, pictures that have been printed off the internet of other shooters that have been involved in similar incidences.
I'm going to show you kind of a picture of the shrine. Can you describe approximately how many pictures are in that shrine, where they were in the gaming room, and who they are of?
There's approximately 15 pictures. They were mounted with thumbtacks to the wall directly behind his computer desk. The pictures show newspaper article clippings labeled with the toll of students that had died during the Parkland shooting, articles from Los Angeles Times and the New York Times showing the firearms that were located during that shooting incident, as well as students mourning the loss of their friends. There's also pictures of Nicholas Cruz from his court appearances, as well as other pictures of Nicholas Cruz leading up to the incident, him holding a firearm, an attack vest, and other school photos that were in his yearbook.
Ward actually interviewed Colin Gray and asked him about the guns in his home.
I did not specifically discuss that firearm. I just discussed that a shooting had taken place. At that point, we didn't know all the details, so I didn't want to give him too much information.
And when you talked to him, did he tell you about the firearm that he had purchased for Colt that was used in the shooting?
He did. During our interview, he went into great detail describing the time he had spent with Colt, trying to get him involved in a hobby that he, as his father, enjoyed as well, which was shooting deer as well as shooting at the range. He discussed in detail why he had purchased that specific assault rifle as the Christmas gift for Colt. He discussed buying him a laser and a laser sight for the rifle. But he also stated that Colt had, for at least approximately a week, been keeping that firearm in his bedroom, specifically in the corner of the room near his guitar.
So previously in the timeline or in the search warrant, you had mentioned there was a shrine of Nicholas Cruz, the school shooter, on Colt's wall. Did you discuss with Colin whether or not he went into that gaming room of Colt's?
Yeah, I just point blank asked him if he went in the rooms that Colt occupied at the residence, if he had noticed anything on the walls. And he stated that he had noticed one specific picture of a male wearing glasses. I believe it would be the court picture of Nicholas Cruz. He stated that originally Colt had a picture of some rock-related individual hanging on the wall, but that picture had been taken down and the picture of Nicholas Cruz had been hung where that picture was on the wall. And he stated that he didn't know who that was, and when he brought it up to Colt, Colt basically said, "Dad, you really don't know who that is?" And he said, "No, son, I don't." The topic was dropped for a while, and then later that night, Colin asked Colt again who were the individuals hanging on his wall, and Colt explained that it was Nicholas Cruz, a previous school shooter. There wasn't any further discussion about that other than, why is he on your wall? And he just said he was. So he left work after receiving those concerning text messages, speaking to Jenny and Marcy, and went home. He stated that when he went home, he turned the news on in the den and was watching it and saw that the shooting had taken place at the high school by that point. He then went into Colt's room under the impression that all the weapons were secured in the residence, but then stated that he realized that the rifle that was Colt's was not sitting in the place inside Colt's bedroom where it had been previously. It was no longer in the corner of the room propped up against the guitar.
So did he admit to you that on the day of the shooting, Colt's gun was actually in Colt's bedroom?
Yes, he believed that that morning it was in the bedroom where it had been the whole week before, and then when he got home from work, it was no longer in Colt's bedroom. She said that over the past year, his fascination with guns had gotten very bad. That was her wording. Specifically over the last few months, she said that he had also had a couple of physical altercations with his dad that were concerning to her. She specifically discussed that Colt had talked to her about the Columbine and Sandy Hook shootings. When he had talked to her about that, he would reference the school shootings but then say, "Just kidding," or he would make joking comments, as she described, about the school shootings. She also stated that Colt had asked his dad to buy him what he considered a shooter mask that was all black with just the eye holes cut out. And when she asked him why he needed that, he stated in a joking manner, "What? I've got to finish up my school shooter outfit. Just kidding." She also stated that Colt had increased panic attacks, specifically over the last month.
Did she indicate whether or not she discussed this obsession with school shooting with Colin, the dad?
She stated that she and Colin and her mother had discussed his fascination with school shooters, but had all kind of determined that it was in a joking manner and or I interpreted them to mean not a serious thing.
And testimony about Colin's reaction to the news that his own son was apparently involved in a school massacre is quite telling, too.
Was Mr. Gray present when law enforcement got there?
He was.
What did he say when law enforcement arrived?
In a not very surprised manner, he said he had just received some text messages from his little girl who was at the middle school about being in lockdown, and he said, God Almighty, please tell me that your brother didn't do something. He said that out loud to the deputies on scene as well as the other law enforcement that were arriving as residents. They asked him, why do you think that he would have done something? And he stated that they were trying to get him into counseling. He didn't fit in at his high school.
In that body camera when he was talking to you, did he appear to express any remorse about what had happened?
No, he did not.
Another person to take the stand was Barrow County investigator Jason Smith, and he told the court that Colt had reportedly gotten into physical altercations with both his mom and his dad and caused him to harm himself.
Did you ever talk about Colt harming himself?
We did. After I showed Mr. Colin Gray a photograph of some injuries that I observed to Colt's left arm, Mr. Gray admitted he had knowledge of those injuries and stated about a year ago, give or take, some few months ago, that Colt had used his knife or a knife that was in Colt's possession to cut himself.
And you saw wounds on Colt at the time of the shooting?
I did, yes, sir.
Consistent with cutting himself?
Yes, sir.
Well, by the end of the hearing, the judge made her decision.
Based on what I have heard, the court does find that the state has met the probable cause standard on all the warrants as written, and they'll be transferred to Superior Court of Barrow County for trial. Thank you.
So there you have it. This case will continue on, and as this case progresses, we will keep an eye on it for you. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.